let's look at how to service a pool using the Android app. Now I'm using a Samsung phone, so it might look a little differently from the phone that you're using, but the general procedure should be the same. So the first thing you're going to do is click on the Hydroscribe app icon, which is right there with a big H, and it brings up a message telling you that you're in practice mode, which is okay. We just want to demo how to use the app. You should practice using the phone and become very familiar with what the buttons do and how you do things within the app. And when you're confident that you know how to use it, then you can put in the mobile ID that's been assigned to you by your admin. Okay, so I'm going to click OK here so we can move on. Now, the first thing I want to do is go into Setup, and I'm going to get my route, chemicals, parts, notes. And I also want to get my to-do list for the day. There might be important tasks on there that I need to attend to. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is to get my route. So I click on Get Route, and it will go out to the server and pull down my route. And it shows me how many pools I have to service. So I click OK. Next, I'm going to get my chemicals by clicking on the button. There's my chemical inventory, my parts, same thing, and my notes. And there's my notes. And then last, I'm going to get my to-do list items, see if there are any important tasks that I have to do. And you can see I have 4. Okay, so now I've pulled down my route, chems, parts, notes, and my to-do tasks. I can click Finish to get out of Setup. And now what I want to do is to service my route. So I'm going to click on Service My Route, and it brings up a list of the addresses that I'm going to visit. So now I can go to the first address on the list. Normally the list is sorted in the order in which the admin wants you to service the pools. So just service them in that order, unless you know otherwise, in which case you can certainly move around and service pools in a different order. You'll notice that there are 2 asterisks here. Those asterisks are there to tell you which pool you're currently servicing. If you started servicing a different pool in the list, that entry would have the 2 asterisks in front of it. We're going to start with the first one. So just click on the address, and it brings up the display for the customer. Now, the display has some basic specs about the pool, but it also has the chemicals and the readings that I took for the last 2 times I visited the pool. And it's a scrollable display, so all you have to do is scroll up to see the other entries on the screen so you can read them over. Okay, so now that you've read them over, we're going to start servicing the pool. The first thing we need to do is to click the Start button, and that basically starts recording my service. So you notice the button turned a little dark to tell you that you've already pressed it. The next thing I'm going to do is to get my test results, test the water for certain chems, and then add any chems that I need to add. So I'm going to click the Log Chems button, and it brings up the list of chemicals that I can test for. You'll also notice that up at the top are the readings that I took the last time I visited the pool, which is on that particular date. So let's say I'm going to test for free chlorine. All I have to do is click on the free chlorine button, and it brings up a list of test results. So I test my water, and I can either select a reading that's preset here, or I can tap inside the box and enter a reading if one is not listed here that I observe. Okay, for now I'm just going to make it easy by clicking on the 3.0, and you'll notice it puts a little dot there. So then I simply have to click the Submit button here, and it records my test result and then gives me a list of all the chemicals that I have out there. So now I can add chemicals to the water if I need to. Let's say I added 4 chlorine tablets, and you see that in the list 3-inch chlorine tablets. So all I do is click on chlorine tablets, and you'll notice it highlights the name of the chemical up at the top to tell you that you've selected it. So now I put in the quantity. So I click inside the quantity field, and it normally will bring up a keyboard, but because I'm using an emulator, it's asking me which keyboard I want to use. I'm just going to select here to use the keyboard on the phone. Normally, you will not have to do that, obviously, it's just because I'm using an emulator. But let's say we use 4 chlorine tablets, so I enter 4 in the quantity box, and then I click done because I'm done with the keyboard. And since the unit is tablets, I don't need to change it. If I needed to change the unit, I would click this button here, and it just goes round, gives you all the different options. And if you keep pressing it, it will come back around to tablets, just like it did here. So we're doing 4 tablets, and so we're good. Now, if the customer had given me these tabs that I'm adding to the pool, I would need to click the customer-owned box to tell the system that this chemical was furnished by the customer. That way the customer doesn't get charged for chemicals that they are providing. Let's just pretend that the customer did not give us the chemicals that came off of our truck. So now all I have to do is to click the save button, and there it tells me that I've added this chemical. Now if I want to add another chemical to the pool, all I have to do is click the chemical in the list, and again you'll notice that it shows the chemical name at the top, and then I choose the quantity. So let's say we did 1.5 pounds, so 1.5, and I'm going to click done to get rid of the keyboard. Now this time I know that this chemical is in pounds and it's still showing tablets, so I'm going to press the button here to change the unit to pounds. So now we have 1.5 pounds, and I'm going to save this by clicking the save button, and there it's added it. So let's make an error here because I want to demonstrate something further on. So let's do this again. Let's say we forgot that we added this chemical, and I'm going to actually add it a second time. So I click on it, and I'm going to put in the same thing, 1.5, and we're going to click done and change it from tablets to pounds, and now I'm going to save it. So now we've added the same chemical twice. I purposefully want to make that mistake because we're going to correct it. So now we're done adding this particular chemical. We can click the cancel button to get back to all the other chems. So now I can add pH, my cyanuric acid, whatever other chemical test I want to do, and other chemicals that I want to add to the water until I'm done. When I'm done, I'm going to click the finish button to go back to this menu, and you'll notice that the log chems button is dark. Now, we should at this point review our chemicals, so you can do that by clicking on the review chems button, and you'll notice that we added this chlorine twice, and there it is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove one of these. So all I have to do is click on the one that I want to remove. So I click on it, and it asks me, are you sure you want to delete this? And I want to click yes, I want to delete it. And now you can see the entry that's in error is now gone. So I can click finish, and we're all good. Now we can continue. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is log our tasks. So I'm going to click the log tasks button, and it brings me up the tasks that I do when I'm cleaning a pool. So all I have to do is click in on each one as I go and select the entries. And there. So now we're done. So now we can click the finish button. And now it's asking me if I want to record any filter pressure readings. And this display is scrollable. So you are going to check the filter pressure and select one, and then click the finish button when you're done. And so now we've logged our tasks. Now, if I want to, I can log extra services and all of that, but we're just doing a basic run through. We'll talk about these in future videos that will be out there. So you can check out those videos separately. So the next thing I want to do is leave some notes for the customer, let's say. So I'm going to click on notes and reminders. And you'll notice that my admin has already set up some notes for me, so I don't have to actually type the message, and this display is scrollable. So I can tell, for example, the customer that the water looks good. So I just press that, and you'll notice it picks the topic. There's an actual message associated with this topic, and that message will get displayed once the data is processed. If I need to send an alert message to the customer, I can do the same thing. Again, this display is scrollable. So let's say I want to tell the customer that they need to add some water to the pool. All I have to do is click the Add Water option, and you'll notice it highlights it, and now I'm done. So I can click the Finish button, and then the next thing it asks me is, do I want to leave a note for myself? So I just left notes for the customer. Now I get to leave notes for myself. So all I have to do is tap inside the box, and I'll bring up the keyboard. So now I can say, for example, check let's say check the pump runtime, for example. So I tell myself, okay, check the pump runtime on the next visit, and I'm good. Okay. So now I'm going to hide this keyboard by just clicking the little return key down at the bottom. And now if I want to set up a reminder for myself, I can set it up here. But again, we're just doing a quick basic run through, so we'll cover that in a separate video. So I'm done with this screen. So I'm going to click the Finish button here, tell the system that I'm done, and you'll notice the button is dark. Okay, last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to log a part just to demonstrate how to do that. So we click Log Parts, and it brings me up a part of my list of inventory parts that have been assigned to me. And so now this is a scrollable display, so we can scroll through the display and select an item. It really doesn't matter, we're just doing a quick run through. So let's find an item in here. Let's say, for example, I'm looking for skimmer basket. Okay, so let's say we choose a skimmer basket, and I click in the quantity field because I want to enter a quantity of 1. So I select 1, and I'm done with the keyboard, so I click the Done key, make the keyboard go away, and I'm going to click Finish. Again, if the customer had given me this part, I would click inside the customer-owned box to show that this part was furnished by the customer. This way the customer will not get charged for that skimmer basket that I'm using. But let's say the customer didn't, so I'm going to just click Finish, and my part has been logged. Again, now we should review our work, so we can click on the Review Work button, and it brings up a display that shows me all the readings that I took, the filter pressure, the tasks that I've completed. And again, the display is scrollable, so you just scroll on down, and all the notes that I left for the customer, any alert messages, and any chems and parts that I actually used. If I had used customer-owned equipment, it would say customer-owned right next to the item. Okay, so we're done looking at this, so we can just click the Finish button, and we've reviewed the list of parts already, but we can review them one more time. So click on Review Chems, and there are my chems and the skimmer basket part. So everything looks good. So I click Finish, and from here I'm done with this pool. So now I can click the Finish button, and it asks me, are you done with this pool? I click Yes to say I'm finished with this pool, and you'll notice that immediately the auto sync will kick in, and it will send that data to the server automatically. And now the address that I just serviced has dropped off the list, and now we're back to the next address on the list, and I can now drive to that address and finish servicing that pool. So that's how you do a basic service of a pool using the app.